Like Vikings setting sail on a murky, mist-shrouded sea, we wade into the fog of 1983, the first year in over a decade without a consensus hard classic. No Texas Chainsaw Massacre, no Alien, no Evil Dead to be found. It's tantalizing, in a way, the mysterious path before us. From the darkness ahead, choices emerge. Perhaps we'll come up short if we go looking for another Halloween or The Exorcist. But the allure of discovering personal favorites and unearthing hidden gems is powerful nonetheless. And with that, as we truck along with our year-by-year breakdown, we present to you the 10 best horror movies of 1983. What happens in this film is pretty straightforward. A psychopathic man is released from prison and becomes overwhelmed by the urge to kill. And since he's, a psychopath, he succumbs to the appetite for brutality and goes on to terrorize an innocent family in their home. It's a familiar story that's graced the screen time and time again, but it could be argued that this is the most upsetting film of the home invasion variety that you're likely to see. And the funny thing is, it doesn't exploit or indulge or rely on crazy effects or devices. Rather, it utilizes a combination of A-plus camera work, realistic acting, and a solid score to create this sinister and claustrophobic realm that's driven by paranoia, confusion, and terror. Based on a popular television series created by Rod Serling, this film of horror and the supernatural tells 4 separate stories, each by a different director. In one, a bigot is taught a lesson when he is transported to experience the lives of 3 different victims of prejudice and intolerance. Another takes a trip to an old age home where the arrival of a special man turns some of the residents into youthful people once again. In the third, a woman befriends a timid young child who turns out to be a maniacal brat with bizarre powers. The final segment shows how a man with an aversion to flying has a rough time when he panics and then sees a strange creature on the wing outside his window seat. On a side note, after watching this movie, you're not going to be able to get the song Midnight Special out of your head.
What are you doing?
In the film adaptation of Stephen King's novel Cujo, our protagonist shows her motherly dedication when she and her young son are trapped in a hot car with a rabid St. Bernard outside, preventing them from easy escape. The characters may not be quite as fleshed out as they are in King's claustrophobic 1981 novel, nor are their actions always understandable. Not to mention the fact that the film's moody approach to the story makes one miss the devil-may-care sleaziness of the book. The author was reportedly drinking himself silly during the period when he wrote it. Despite all that, this dog-eat-person's hell works. The central set piece of our protagonist vs. killer canine is wonderfully tense and despairing. Cujo's potential victims are so realistically terrified and shocked by what's happening to them that they encourage a similar level of psychological horror from his viewers.
Okay, baby. Listen, dear.
A nerdish boy buys a strange car, a 1958 Plymouth Fury, with an evil mind of its own, and his nature starts to change to reflect it. Christine is essentially a slasher movie with multiple parts: revenge, high school drama, possession, and obsession. That's a lot of parts, but it mostly works due to the fact that the movie focuses on the Fury, which director John Carpenter never reveals too much about, leaving the unexplained power of it to drive the film. Based on Stephen King's novel, it's well known that Carpenter altered quite a lot, including the purpose of the car. The book made it clear it held the soul of a man. It's nice that Carpenter shows that it was born evil direct from the assembly line. And just as Carpenter made Michael Myers a mute icon, he does the same here, and probably could have swapped Myers for the car and the movie wouldn't play much different.
Okay. Show me.
After 22 years of psychiatric care, Norman Bates attempts to return to a life of solitude, but the specters of his crimes and his mother continue to haunt him. The The great thing about Psycho 2 is that it doesn't overconcern itself with trying to top its predecessor, and instead focuses on delivering a solid continuation of that film's events. Attempting to outdo a Hitchcock film would be a completely foolish task, so it's refreshing to see the filmmakers here being perfectly content to just do their thing without soiling the sandbox too much. Scary and fun, Psycho 2 is as worthy a sequel as one might reasonably expect.
Do you have a knife?
No, I'm afraid. I don't. I just moved back here after being many years away. I forgot to bring any cutlery.
On the face of it, David Cronenberg's decision to take on an adaptation of Stephen King's 1979 novel, The Dead Zone, must have seemed a strange one at the time. Having just directed the disturbing and downright brilliant Videodrome, which we'll get to in a minute, Cronenberg then signed up to direct a relatively mainstream movie, an adaptation of another writer's work, his first time doing this, with a paranormal subject matter, an unusual topic for a cerebral director with little time for the supernatural. But as Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining proved, the pairing of an analytical filmmaker with a pop-hard premise can produce movie magic, as though the collision of these two opposing forces somehow creates a unique spark of its own. The film, of course, follows a man who awakens from a coma to discover he has a psychic ability. Foreseeing the future appears to be a gift at first, but ends up causing problems. Naturally.
Your daughter's screaming. Amy's screaming. It's not too late. Your daughter's screaming. Hurry up!
A love triangle develops between a beautiful yet dangerous vampire, her companion, and a medical specialist. Upon its release back in 1983, critics saddled The Hunger with a tag that would haunt most of director Tony Scott's career. Style over substance, they said. However, to dismiss the film in such a fashion is to ignore the very pertinent and contextual horrors informing it. Looking back on it over 30 years later, it's a work that feels clearly defined by the burgeoning paranoia surrounding AIDS. Much like David Cronenberg's The Fly, it also digs deeper than that to tap into the universal fears of aging. Most vampire films explore the horrors of immortality from an existential standpoint, but the terror is made unsettlingly visceral in The Hunger.
There is no release, my darling. No rest. No letting go.
After a seemingly innocent prank goes wrong, a group of sorority sisters are stalked and murdered one by one in their sorority house while throwing a party to celebrate their graduation. There's just something so sumptuous and lush about this film. If you've ever heard the phrase classy slasher, they must have been referring to the house on Sorority Row. From the music to the women to the photography, it's all just about perfect. Luckily, 2009's bigger budgeted remake turned out to be good enough not to be an embarrassment to the legacy, but it still never got close to the refined style that was delivered by its predecessor. At camp, a series of bizarre and increasingly violent accidents begin to claim the lives of various campers. In short, Sleepaway Camp is one of the greatest slashers ever made. The film manages to create a truly creepy atmosphere. The killings are original and gruesome, and the disclosure of the murderer's identity is one of the most shocking climaxes in the history of cinema. Throughout the film, there's a constant threat of, what? In just about every scene. From the opening scene right to the face-crinkling ending. It's Nutter Butters. And is made all the more disturbing by the fact that the campers are almost entirely played by real 13-ish-year-old kids instead of the usual 19-year-olds playing younger. If you're a slasher aficionado, or you just want to watch a super weird movie, Sleepaway Camp is most definitely the movie for you.
Meet me at the waterfront after the social.
I'll be there.
With Videodrome, a tale that follows the CEO of a small television station who discovers a broadcast signal featuring extreme violence and torture, David Cronenberg displayed that he was way ahead of the curve in suggesting how integral technology was becoming a part of the culture by literally physicalizing the concept on screen. The film also touched upon the theory of media images supposedly having a detrimental psychological effect on the spectators, by again, physicalizing the concept. i.e. Nikki Brand stubbing a cigarette out on her chest, or any one of Max's grotesque transformations brought on by watching Videodrome the show. Long live the new flesh, indeed.
Long live the new flesh.
Once again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to let us know your favorite horror movie of the year in the comments section below.